All right, welcome to December football, but not December weather today for the Eagles as they are in South Florida in the sunshine there. A high of around 83 degrees at kickoff. Super jealous, those of us back in the Northeast getting rained on today with a wintry, snowy mix. I'm going to live vicariously through this beautiful video there of Hard Rock Stadium as the Eagles get ready to take on the Dolphins, the 2-9 Dolphins, but they've won 2 out of their last 4, a team that's really getting it together. Amy Campbell, Fran Duffy, as always, here on the Kickoff Show. Let's get back to the sunshine. Let's watch these players warm up as they prepare to face a Miami Dolphins team that started the season really rough, but Fran, they really are slow. They're coming together with a bit of an identity in the past few weeks.
They are, and the stats are not a pretty sight.
No.
It's a month late for Halloween, but it is pretty scary when you look at the stat sheet. The wins, though, have started to pile up a little bit, and they're competing at a high level. When you watch this team on film, this is not a group that has mailed it in. The Eagles cannot come into this game sleepwalking because this is a team that plays hard on both sides of the football. Brian Flores, the head coach there, he's got them going in the right direction. They've just got to get the horses there to be able to pull it in the direction that they want to go, because right now, talent is more the issue than I would say than scheme and effort in Miami.
As we look at Carson Wentz, he's going to be facing a Dolphins defense with, like you said, Brian Flores coming from New England. The Eagles have played both New England and also that Detroit defense as well. Similar vibe coming from that Bill Belichick tree. How much of the similarity can you draw from those 2 games in the Dolphins today?
Oh, you certainly can pull a lot from it because Brian Flores, like you mentioned, comes from Bill Belichick. This is his first year away from Belichick here now as a head coach in Miami. It's going to be the same scheme they saw a couple weeks ago against the Patriots, the same one they saw back in week 3 against Detroit. Heavy man coverage on the back end, some blitzing, a lot of variety up front from a defensive line standpoint. So the Eagles will have to be ready for all of that. They've seen it all. The biggest difference, I would say, is that they just don't have the talent. You know, Miami, they don't have Stephon Gilmore. He's not walking through that door. Darius Slay from Detroit, he's not walking through that door. A lot of the top DBs from that team, Minkah Fitzpatrick traded away, Xavier Howard on IR, Cordrea Tankersley on IR, Bobby McCain on IR. So they're missing a lot of their best players on the back end of that defense, and it does show they are giving up big plays. But you still have to be ready for everything that they're going to bring from a pressure standpoint.
Yeah, a team that's been very disciplined and that is showing the will to win as well. Let's take a look at the offensive starters here for the Eagles. A lot of excitement as a lot of guys are back and active today. Alshon Jeffrey is active. Brandon Brooks, of course. Lane Johnson is active. And Nelson Aguilar back from injury as well. Zach Ertz questionable today. Missed a couple days of practice with a hamstring injury, but was warming up, was limited on Friday. Eagles getting a big boost back in several players when it comes to their offense today.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at this from the passing game standpoint, getting Alshon and Nelson back in the lineup is going to be big for this Eagles offense. And then getting Lane back with Brandon Brooks back is huge as well, not just for the passing game, but also for the run game. The Eagles really missed that presence on the right side of the offensive line last week in the loss to Seattle. So having both of those guys back in the trenches is going to be huge. And, having those threats on the outside is really big as well. Greg Ward had a solid outing in his debut last week against Seattle, but, having guys like Alshon and Nelson, exactly, having those guys that are battle-tested is going to be big for that guy right there, number 11.
Absolutely. Well, and as we've seen the offense struggle, a huge part of that can be because just of the talent level. There is a drop-off, like you said. The starters are the starters for a reason, even though it is, next man up in this league, and everybody has to be ready. The starters are starters for a reason. How key is it to have those offensive linemen back, especially when it comes to getting that run game going against a Miami team today?
It's huge. And look, the Dolphins have struggled to stop the run. They've struggled to run the ball in their own right as well on offense. But, to have Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, that's the best right side of the offensive line in the NFL. So anytime you miss those 2 guys, it's going to have a negative impact on your offense in the run game, in the passing game. And that did show up last week on film. So they'll be happy to have those guys back on the field today.
Well, and here's the guys who are looking to make Ryan Fitzpatrick have a really long day. Let's look at the defensive starters across the board, the defense that continues to get healthier. Now, not on the starting list today, but really to me, the big name that is back in the fold, Cre'Von LeBlanc, is back for the Eagles after that injury suffered very early in training camp. I believe it was the first day of training camp that he went down with an injury, and a guy who really had a solid season last year for the Eagles. He's also not too far away from his hometown, grew up in Belglade, not too far from Miami there. So definitely a very exciting game for him to come back. How much of a boost does he provide this Eagles defense?
It's great because it's just another guy back there that you have a lot of confidence in to play inside, in the slot, be a matchup player, in a passing league. And the Eagles have shown as they continue to get some of these DBs healthy, Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, Avonte Maddox, all those guys back into the mix. I think when you factor in a guy like Crayvon LeBlanc, now that continues to add more experience and more savvy to that backside, allow them to be a little bit more versatile with what they're doing up front as well. So it's not a coincidence that with the secondary getting healthy, that we've seen the effectiveness of this defense really continue to get better and better each week.
Well, and when you talk about guys coming back, that's kind of been the theme on defense, is we've seen the defense be really solid for the past few weeks when they're all healthy. The offense hoping that that's an indicator for them as well, with several guys back for them. A guy who's not sort of returning from injury, but who was not here a few weeks ago, is Jay Ajayi, who is back in Miami, where he spent some time. Not really a amicable parting there with him. Jordan Howard out today. How key is Jay Ajayi going to be in this game?
It's going to be big. It is going to be big because I think when you look at Jay Ajayi and the role that he can play, in this Eagles offense, he can do some of the things that Jordan Howard can do, and that he can bang it between the tackles. He could be a little bit of a tone setter for you. He has shown that the ability to do that in games past for the Eagles. And then also, you have a lot of trust in Miles Sanders, but you want him to also be a big factor in the passing game and also as a returner. So you don't want to overwork him offensively between the tackles, allowing him being Jay Ajayi, to be that tone setter early and also close the game late. If the Eagles have a lead in the fourth quarter, getting Jay Ajayi the football will be big for this offense.
I love watching these guys go at it in the trenches. Probably my favorite position group to watch with the warm-up. Let's talk a little bit more about the challenge that Ryan Fitzpatrick poses for this defense. Brandon Graham said it earlier this week. We got to hit him early and often. A guy who can be effective, but who can also be a killer, who has absolutely been an Eagle killer on 7 different teams. He's beaten the Eagles 7 different times throughout his career. What kind of challenges does he present today?
Well, he is just the epitome of a gunslinger. He's going to pull the trigger no matter what he sees in front of him. I like to call it a YOLO ball, where he said, you know what, no matter what, I'm throwing this football. If it's got to be here, this crossing route between these two defenders, I'm pulling the trigger and cutting it loose. We saw that. You saw that in person last year, week 2 down in Tampa Bay.
It was shocking, actually, to be frank.
He's got that ability. He's got a strong arm. He can make plays outside of structure with his feet. So, the Eagles have to keep him contained. He's not the athlete Russell Wilson was last week, but he's a guy that you do have to keep contained into the pocket. Even though he's 37 years old, this guy can still make plays.
Well, and here's a guy who's hoping that he can catch some of those interceptions if they can get Fitz to turn it over, which he's known for. Jalen Mills, who has continued to be incredible since he's been back from injury. How do you see his matchup today?
Well, he's going to be matched up here with Devontae Parker for a good chunk of this game. And Devontae Parker was kind of labeled as a little bit as a first-round bust. Was a top 15 pick coming out of Louisville a few years ago, but has really struggled to really kind of be effective until this season when they really needed him. He's become a down-the-field weapon. He's a big matchup here, and he's a guy they like to throw the ball down the field too. Fitzpatrick is a guy that likes to push the ball. Parker has been on the other side of a lot of those deep passes.
Yeah, I really, just watch this moment. I don't want people to miss this next moment from Jalen Mills because it's so entertaining. Just keep an eye. She's like, no, thank you.
You gotta keep your head on the swivel out there.
Yeah, she, you know what, she basically looked right at him and was like, nah, I'm not feeling this. And he's like, cool. I do love this about him, though, that he's always on the sidelines engaging fans. And maybe they're, not as many Eagles fans as he's used to, though we do know that the Eagles fans are showing up in South Florida, and I have a feeling that it's going to be a very pro-Eagles crowd there in Miami, because not a lot of people show up for Dolphins games.
Yeah, I had an Eagles fan who is local to the area text me and say, hey, is there a player that's always out in the field, kind of engaging, taking my son to the game? Is there anybody out there? Jalen Mills, I said, yeah, he's the guy. That he's your best shot. If he'll come over, take a picture, or interact with your son. He is the guy. But no, it's going to be an Eagles crowd. You see some of those shots, no question. It's going to be an Eagles crowd today.
Well, and I can tell you, I grew up in South Florida. My dad was a season ticket holder for the Dolphins for most of my life, and it's always been a challenge for them to get people to the games. And there are a lot of Eagles fans in South Florida. I knew a lot of them growing up, and just the passion that Eagles fans have. Dolphins fans don't have that much passion passion for it. Actually, so let's go back to Hard Rock Stadium and check in specifically with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Dave, I know you've been partying with Eagles fans throughout the last couple of days, but let's talk about the energy that comes from that Dallas loss on Thanksgiving Day to the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles control their own destiny. We're all circling December 22nd on our calendars. How much of a morale boost has that provided?
I'm not sure if it's provided a great morale boost for the players, because I think everybody kind of looked at it and said that December 22nd game is going to be huge. But more than that, the Eagles have lost 2 straight games. They're just looking for a win. You know, nobody looks ahead in the NFL. They look at the moment. So for the fans, and that's the crowd, that's the Eagles crowd right here. When you look up, you go, okay, I see a Dolphin fan over there. There's 2 over there. Oh, I see a couple. I mean, it's like all Eagles fans so far. For them, the chase gets better because Dallas keeps stumbling. But for the team, I think they knew they have to get back in the win column here today.
Well, Dave, you mentioned that crowd, and we could hear it in the background here in the studio. That certainly will be a big storyline to follow. But what is your storyline to watch in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Fran, to me, like, it's about winning a game. So the Eagles, they got to win. They have 4 games against teams with, at the moment, 2-9 records, and then the Dallas Cowboys. It's December. The calendar is flipped into the most important month of the year. This is when all of the playoff jockeying gets decided. So the overarching storyline is here. The Eagles are getting healthier on offense. We saw what that did to the defense. It's time to get on a roll and take advantage of the schedule that the Dallas Cowboys beat up on in September. It's time for the Eagles to beat on that schedule in December.
So, Dave, as we look at this Miami team, a team that does not have the talent to match up with the Eagles, but a team that has some momentum. They're buying in. They're playing with an extreme amount of passion for their new head coach there in Brian Flores. What is the key for the Eagles in this one in Miami?
So here's a great statistic that somebody told me upstairs. Of the 12 defensive backs that the Dolphins have on their roster right now, 8 of them were not drafted. And they've had 8 safeties play this year. So that secondary is ripe for the taking. And that's what Carson Wentz has to do today. The Eagles have to get Wentz back up on the rise here. So I look for them to do things early in the game to get him into a rhythm. Some early completions, some easy throws, get the ball out of his hand quickly, build up confidence in his receiving core, something that's more stable today than it's been in the weeks past here. So that is my key to the game. Starting the rebuild of Carson Wentz as we point toward December 22nd and hopefully the postseason.
All right, Dave, we will check in with you later in the day. Enjoy that sunshine. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's very, very warm and beautiful here. I hope it's just nice back at NovaCare.
We've got the wintry mix going on, as I was saying to Fran earlier. Not everybody's favorite. It's like not really rain, it's not really snow. It's just kind of like
something in between.
Kind of sad, but we are living vicariously through Dave there as well. Fran, what's your key to the game?
Well, Dave talked about trying to get Carson Wentz into a rhythm, and when you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he gets into a rhythm, it's because he's attacking the intermediate area of the field. So my key is the Eagles have to defend the intermediate area, and here's how they're going to try and do it. There are a lot of different ways you can do it from a coverage standpoint. The Dolphins love to attack that middle with a guy like Devontae Parker. Deep dig routes, quick slant routes, skinny posts. He loves to attack the middle of the field, get him the ball in space. Then you've got a guy like Mike Gesicki, former Penn State tight end, get him down the field, deep over routes, skinny posts, all the same things we saw him do here in State College. They love getting him in the middle of the field. Now, the Eagles, schematically, can do this in a number of different ways. We've seen them play a lot more man coverage lately. The way to attack the middle of the field here, from a coverage standpoint, cover one robber. Take a safety, put him down in the middle of the field, man-to-man coverage on the outside with a single high safety. The other way to do it, in zone coverage, is one of their more popular coverages. Take one of those safeties, put him into the middle of the field as a cover 2 invert. Take those 2 corners, move them into the back to play that split safety look. It's a great way to disguise things from a coverage standpoint. They confused Russell Wilson a number of times with this coverage. Last week game, he resulted in a couple of sacks and interception. The Eagles have to take away the middle of the field with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He loves attacking between the hashes. Take away that spot on the field, the Eagles will have some success on defense.
That's a great animation. I'm going to give Ben Fennell a little shout out
That's
there
right.
for making that. Those are so cool. I love them and so informative to really see it played out like that. For my key, it's kind of echoing Dave's a little bit, but I'm going to to say that the Eagles need to do the little things right on offense. And the metaphor that I'm thinking of is a basketball one. You know, when a shooter is having trouble, you need to just see the ball go through the hoop a few times to kind of get that mental juice flowing. Carson Wentz needs to see those receivers catching those balls. So whether it's on the receiver, whether it's on Wentz, wherever the blame for all the drops has gone, they need to get that confidence going. They need to get that rhythm going. We've talked about the Miami defense, how this Eagles team is more talented than them, plain and simple. So this is a great chance to kind of do the little things right, get some positivity, get some momentum, see the ball go through the hoop, and kind of build on that identity as we're going down the December stretch.
Yeah, one saying that a lot of analysts will use is that it has the ability to be a get-right game for the Eagles offense. You know, whether it's the inside run game, outside runs, quick passing game, play action, screens, deep passing game, you should be able to come out and execute against this Miami Dolphins team. You don't need to score a touchdown every single time you drop back and throw or hand the football off. It's about just executing at a high level, try and get things right, get some momentum going down the stretch here.
All right, so it's a get-right game for the Eagles, but you know who's always right? Mike Quick and Merrill Reese are standing by with their players to watch in this one, and chances are a weather report as well. Merrill, what do you got for us?
Hi, Amy. Wish you were here. Wish all of our viewers were here. It is a gorgeous, hot day here in Miami. And Mike Quick, aside from catching some rays, who are you looking at today? What's your focus?
So my player to watch today is going to be number 31, Jalen Mills. When I look at the Miami Dolphins, their strength, if there's a strength for their offense, is throwing the ball down the field. Devontae Parker, he's a challenge. So I think it's going to depend on that back end of the defense, and particularly Jalen Mills, because Parker line up on that side a lot to handle his business, and the Eagles will come out of here with the win.
Makes a lot of sense. My player to watch is number 28, Jay Ajayi. You know, the other day in the Dallas game, we saw what Cole Beasley did to his former team. And let me tell you something. Jay Ajayi plays with a lot of passion, and he's not very fond of this Miami organization. So look for 28 to come up big. Amy, have a great day, and stay warm.
All right, we're going to try to stay warm here. We are going to take a quick break. On the other side, Mike Quick going one-on-one with Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins. That's a really good interview that you don't want to miss. We have to end our social media stream, so if you are watching us anywhere except for PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the Eagles app, come join us over there. We will be right back.